Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in today. We have been so excited, maybe a little bit too excited for this webinar with Dr. Phil. I know I've been getting a lot of messages from different doctors who have been, I don't know, is it okay to say stalking your social media?
Sure.
You are just such a light and so much fun
Oh,
to follow.
thanks.
Even I learned things from you, and Chris Habig would make fun of me. I think he's probably in this call because he knows how much I love social media. So that's saying something.
I do love marketing. That's my jam. I love teaching it, and it just makes me happy to be able to help other practice owners to do the same.
Yeah, I love that. And I am a parent to 3 little boys. So I'm like stalking you on 2 levels of the social media guru and also parenting.
Right.
I guess I should introduce you first. You want to give yourself an introduction, let people know where you're from?
Sure. So Phil Boucher, pediatrician in Lincoln, Nebraska. I started a direct primary care pediatric practice about 16 months ago now, actually almost 18 months ago now. And before that, I was in a private practice as an owner here in Nebraska. And so it has been quite the journey of starting the practice and everything like that. But I have grown it really successfully. I think we have in 12 months, we made it to 400 members, and we have 450 members in our pediatric practice now. And I attribute a lot of that to social media marketing because I'm out there in the community and people know about me and talk about all sorts of different parenting things that apply whether you actually live in Lincoln, Nebraska or not. And that I attribute to a lot of the success because basically every patient that we see now, where did you find us? Social media. And friends sent me your video on such and such, and that's what made me learn more. And it really works. And the thing that I really like about it is I teach physicians how to do it in 10 minutes per day. And I actually hold myself to that of 10 minutes per day. And then I'm done because I want to show physicians I can do it in 10 minutes a day and put out a ton of content. You can do it and put out the content that you need to have the impact that you want to have.
Yeah, I love that. And I love, I heard you speak a couple months ago now, and you were saying, that perfection is salesy, and especially
Totally.
And I think you do such a good job of practicing that, of just being, not that you're sloppy, but just being you and a normal parent that's running around and working at the same time. And I think that's so relatable. So,
well, especially in the private practice and especially in the direct primary care space, it's not just about some doc that you're seeing. It's not just I'll see who's ever available. You're in the direct primary care space in particular, setting up a relationship. And so if they can get to know you rather than see the posts that your office celebrates Flag Day, happy Flag Day, happy whatever it might be. Like nobody cares about that. People want to get to know you. They want to know that you're a real person. So I encourage physicians, like, record in your car. Recording in the car is the perfect place to record. And you'll see so many of my videos that I record in the car, not because I don't have all the fancy equipment. Like I do have all the fancy equipment because I'm a gadget guy and I like to have an excuse to buy more cameras and microphones. Like if you looked at my computer, I've got 3 cameras right here.
Love that.
Recording in the car shows that you're a real person that drives a car. There's crap in the back seat. And this is so important that even though the lights and the cameras and everything aren't perfect, I want to share this information with you. And so I just pulled into the office and I've got to run in and see a patient, but I wanted to tell you first and foremost, this, and this. And then you share that and you're done for the day.
Yeah. Being a pediatrician, especially, I can think of times where I've taken my kids and felt like, oh my gosh, they have mismatched socks on. What they're going to think I'm a trouble parent or something. Whereas you're seeing, I actually see my pediatricians on the call here putting in questions already. So shout out to your corner peds.
Yay.
But, it's so much nicer to see someone who I don't have to pretend to be perfect, and I can actually explain, the things that are going on in my life as a parent. It's a cool thing to see. So, speaking of comments, for those of you who are new to our webinars or just tuning in, we do have the Q&A enabled down here. If you guys, I know people are going to have loads of questions. We'll try to get as many as we can answered while we're on in our limited time. today. So go ahead and throw your questions there. We are a chatty group. This is not a formal webinar. We are
good.
Not perfect. Please feel free to jump into the chat and let us know where you're tuning in from, maybe what your specialty is, and what you're hoping to gain from today. And we'll be happy to interact throughout this conversation. So housekeeping out of the way, let's just jump in. Really, for what you recommend for someone who's just starting DPC. You know, obviously you attribute so much to social media for your success of your practice.
Right.
What's kind of the best way to get started for those who maybe are really uncomfortable or feel the need to be the influencer image instead of themselves on social?
I think jumping in and getting started is the best thing to do, honestly, and making mistakes along the way. If you go back and you look on my YouTube channel, I have video from like 5 years ago, and it's of how to introduce Peanut to your 6-month-old. It's my very first video. It took me 3 hours literally to set up the camera and get the microphone right and get the focus right. And I was very stilted. And how can I, put like cards or have one of my kids like hold up cards of how to do it? From that to where I am now with creating content just took a lot of practice and a lot of mistakes and a lot of being okay with mistakes and messy. And so I think in general, the thing to do is to find a couple people that you want to emulate and watch their content. They can be in your same space or they can be totally different, but you say, I really relate to this, because if you relate to this, then your ideal patient, who's probably similar to you, relates to it as well. And so if you start with that, then you can say, I'm going to create videos that are essentially a copy of this person's. We're not competitors. Like if there's another pediatric DPC, 60 miles or 600 miles away, we're not competitors. And so steal what I do, steal what others do, create it your own. Because no matter, even if you say, okay, Phil did a video last week on introducing Peanut, I shouldn't copy. Well, that was last week. I'm happy for you to copy. Take it, script it the way that you want, steal as much from me as you'd like, and create that on your own, because you're going to put your own spin and your own flavor and your own style into it, no matter how you do it. And it will resonate better with the people that are in your community, rather than the people that are in my community. And so it will serve you really well, and it'll make it easy for you. So find a couple people, and then emulate what they do and practice.
Yeah, I love that. I like you mentioned, that you're talking to your ideal patient too. And so often it is, what we love. We're speaking to people that are in a similar way. And I totally get that. For people who are new to social media or have played with it and are still a little bit scared, I think that ideal patient is such an important idea to have in your head. For you in pediatrics, you're talking to the parent most likely, rather than a toddler probably. So, it's really dependent on who you're talking to, but getting so specific. Chantel, I see that you're in here too. Hi. She's our social media manager, and she's so great at taking people through that exercise of who are you talking to? Where do they shop? What are they wearing? How many kids do they have? Are they working? Are they staying at home? And really figuring out how you can serve them the best. It helps when you can think of one person that you're talking to.
Absolutely. I think especially, in pediatric DPC, it's a little more nuanced because we're usually speaking to the parent, like you said, and it's usually, just looking at social media metrics and numbers and everything, it's usually the mom that's watching the parenting pediatric content. So that's who I'm usually speaking to. 80% of my audience is female. In the adult family practice, internal medicine space, what I recommend that physicians do as they're getting started and building their social media is pick someone, speak to them, and then move on to somebody else. Because the things that I'm going to tell you about direct primary care as a 30-something professional are completely different than the things that I'm going to tell you as a 70-year-old who has multiple medications that we can get you at a discount, that has labs that need to be done on a regular basis, those sort of things. You cannot speak to both and resonate with either, and you're just going to turn off one or the other. And so choose who you're going to speak to, create a really specific avatar. That's what I teach physicians, is an ideal new patient avatar, what they think, where they shop, what they do, what's on their minds, what they're worried about at this age and stage of their life, and speak to that rather than trying to speak to everybody at once. Once you've nailed down, okay, I got 10 good pieces of content that I can share for 40-year-old professionals who are stressed, not exercising the way that they would like to, are suffering from some medical issues because of that, or the starts of them, or they're worried about those things. Once I get, 10 good videos that we're really focused on that, then I'm going to move to the 70-year-old that's on multiple medications that are super expensive, that has to get labs drawn, that just wants somebody that can, quarterback everything without having to go to 3 different doctors and go to the lab and all those sorts of things. Those are the different audiences. And then you have, you work your way through 5 different ideal new patient avatars, and you have a ton of content that that can be then used over and over again to speak to all those different people. And then the 40-year-old will share it with their 40-year-old friends, the 75-year-old will share it with their 75-year-old friends, and you'll just see the results of that. But speaking to a specific first ideal new patient avatar is the most important thing to do, to not just get lost in the weeds.
Yeah, just to kind of rip off that Band-Aid and get going. And another thing, especially if you're family practice and you're talking to all ages, they're sharing, the 75-year-old sharing with 75-year-old, but also the 40-year-old sharing it with their parent, that they're newly into that relationship. So yeah, I think that's really awesome. And, there's so many things that I love about your social media, but I really love how educational it is. So even, I know you would not say this yourself, but you have a ridiculous amount of followers and not all those people are in your area, I'm sure.
Oh, no, most of them aren't. Yeah. I wish I had 80,000 parents that were in this area, because then I could just, retire.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, no, not everybody is in the area for sure.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty cool, because you're talking to these people that are getting educated on all of these things that are applicable. And one kind of objection that I've heard from doctors starting on social and providers is, well, how I want to talk mostly about when we're open, what the office looks like. These, those are some important things, but I think you really have your foundation based on education. And then not very often do I hear you refer back to really what they can use your services for. They just kind of naturally find their radio.
Right. I think it's easy to talk about your hours, but nobody cares about your hours. Like, I can just Google your hours. Like and if they work for me, then they work for me. And if they don't work for me, then they don't work for me. And so I'm going to really just quickly filter that through the lens of, is this a good fit for me? And so I find that if you can focus on education, then what you'll find is that people will work their way to you. And you have to talk with them multiple times. They have to see you on a regular basis, showing up and providing education before they say, maybe I should look into this a little bit more. I'm unsatisfied with this in my current practice, and I think I'm going to explore other options. And I've seen this guy, he's always talking about the most random pediatric or parenting or family practice stuff. And so I'm going to learn more about that. And then you'll get them into the net of, okay, here's how DPC actually work. Here's what our hours are. Here's what the membership fee is, all those sorts of things. But first and foremost, they have to know, like, and trust you, which comes from education, from getting to know you and the way that you act and your style, and seeing that you're a relatable person that they can relate to and that they could see themselves having for their doctor. And so for me, what that looks like is I try and do, if you go through my Instagram, which is my main platform channel, because that's where most of my patients' parents spend their time, is on Instagram. 80% is for parents. 20% is for me. And I think that's just a good rule of thumb when it comes to 80% is educational. It's putting information out there. It's not asking for them to join your practice. And then 20%, I can tell them about our practice or how it works or the things that we do differently and how that works, and invite them to take the next step, which might be looking at our website or scheduling a meet and greet or joining because we have a special going on, whatever that might be. But 80% of it is just straight education. And once you can do that 80% as education, then you can do that other 20% as here's how our practice works. And so what that looks like is, if you're going to do a video, like if I could convince every physician out there to do something, it would be to do one video per day. And so 4 days a week,
guys, write this down.
4 days a week, you're educating. 1 day a week, you're telling about your practice. And over time, what you'll see is, if you spend any time on social media, you see the same people's, if they're showing up on a regular basis, you get exposed to their stuff on a regular basis. And it might be that you're seeing a reel that's a week old or even 2 weeks old or something like that, but it's still popping up in your news feed as the first time that you've encountered it. And so what you do is you just put a lot of information out there, and eventually as people watch you and watch you and watch you, they see more of your stuff, and it just kind of snowballs from there. Then they're getting exposed to both your education pieces and the join my practice pieces.
Right. I love that. I always like to refer to Instagram as like the nursing mother's dream. So they're trying to stay awake while they're feeding their baby in the middle of the night.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And if they think about seeing your page in their,
Totally.
I don't know if you're talking about nursing or what you're talking about, but they're going to click on it because they want that advice, and then they're going to naturally see whatever you're offering for the practice as well. So yeah, that's awesome.
Well, I know that's the case because we can tell when patients like go to our website and things like that. And there's a lot of 2 a.m. website surfing. And that's not just people staying up that late and thinking, I'm going to look for a new doctor right now. It's the perfect time to do it at 2 a.m. Or people, I sometimes do like parenting workshops, and I get a ton of people that join at 2 or 3 in the morning. Like they sign up at 2 or 3 in the morning because they're awake, because they want help, because that's when they're doing their life on their phone.
Yeah. That's such a good point. Well, speaking of your workshops, I know we were talking before we hopped in here that you've got one even coming up today. And yes. I know that's an area people have been really interested in kind of digging into. I was speaking with someone this morning who was even talking about having, whether it's a webinar or a Facebook group, talking specifically to teens. Yeah. How do you decide, you mentioned your platform is mostly Instagram. How do you decide where to offer that and how to really serve your patients the best there?
I typically, so clarify a little bit more of that question. Do you mean reaching teens, or can you just give me a little bit more question?
I'll give you some background from this specific person. So she's talking to teens about menstruation. How would she decide? Is it a Facebook group? Is it a webinar? Where do you feel you can figure out kind of, I'm guessing you're going to say, just try it.
Well, yeah, testing is the most important thing. Is like what worked and what didn't work. But by and large, if we're looking at like the platforms and everything like that, there are some good best practices when it comes to where should I post to reach the audience that I'm trying to reach. And so if I just go through them all, Facebook a decade ago was the place to be for everything. And lately, I don't find that a lot of younger people are using Facebook, other than maybe their messenger or keeping track of specific groups that they're in. There are lots of like physician Facebook groups and everything like that, but I don't think that that's the place to do a lot of educational and promotional content to like really make it stick. Most content these days is video, whether it's like talking to the camera video, or video where you're just composing some videos and then talking over them or something along those lines. Instagram would be the under 55 crowd, I think would be a good metric for who's on Instagram, is that under 55 crowd. The over 55 crowd you'll still find on Facebook quite a bit. If you're looking for teens, so for this specific example, I want to talk to teens about menstruation, TikTok and Instagram. Those would be the two places to go for that. I can't see teens signing up for a workshop or webinar. It's usually like a parent sort of thing that they'll do. I do them over lunch because I know that since the pandemic, everybody's used to doing Zooms over lunch sort of thing. And they can even do it when they're at work because they're on a Zoom, even though it's, not particularly pertaining to their work probably. So I would say content on social media should be tailored to the audience that you're trying to reach. The one place that I really like that I think it gets underused massively and there's massive opportunity is LinkedIn. If you're trying to reach adults that are professional age, that are trying to better themselves as a family practice doctor, as a pediatrics doctor, as an internal medicine doctor in DPC, LinkedIn is a great place to reach local people. And the two nice things about that is it's not as crowded as Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. And so your message gets further more easily. And two is it's considered a business social media. So even if they're blocked out of Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, when they're TikTok, when they're at their office, typically you can still get on LinkedIn and do some scrolling because it's considered a place to network and connect with others. But that's a great place to provide content and information and reach those that frankly are usually a really good fit for DPC. Like I've talked with a lot of family practice doctors, internal medicine doctors, and if we can get 10 more 40 to 55-year-olds that are concerned about their health and that are seeing age-related declines in their health, if you can just speak to them, they're on LinkedIn and they're happy to consume that content, learn from you, learn about you, take the next step to joining. And they're usually, professional types that have the income to support, joining a direct primary care practice too.
Yeah, that's a great point. LinkedIn definitely gets overlooked. I feel like I hear people reaching out to employer groups that way to try and add
Yeah.
PC in there, but not really thinking about talking to that person directly. So that's a
Totally.
great.
Yeah. I mean, there's almost 1 billion users on LinkedIn. It's one of the biggest growing platforms too. And you can make it really easy to reach your specific person. If I could tell anyone how to, like you do your video, but then in the copy there on LinkedIn, you write attention, Lincoln accountants, attention, Indianapolis finance managers, something like that, something very specific to that. And then that will catch her to, hey, I'm a Lincoln, pediatrician, or I'm a Indianapolis finance manager, something like that. You can speak directly to those people.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Why don't we take a break for just a second here and answer some of these questions coming in? I'm laughing because the first one's from Elizabeth Bowen, who says, don't mind us while we are DPC fangirling over here. Your corner peds is so excited for this webinar.
Oh, yay.
So she might have been part of the person pushing us to reach out to you. And I'm so glad that she did.
Oh, good.
And then the next question is, what advice would you give to someone who's not comfortable being on camera?
This is such a good question, and it's such a common thing that people don't want to be on camera, and that's the thing that's holding them up. And before I tell you, you just got to do it. You got to practice. You can do really good video content without being on camera. And I'm hopeful that I can share my screen here. I'm going to just show you some content straight from my Instagram. I think I'm almost sharing. Oh, there we go. Hopefully you can see my Instagram. So I do a lot of like face to camera stuff because I find that easy and it's much faster for me. But here's an example right here of literally, I just took a video of our coffee machine in our waiting room. It's loading slowly. I'm probably really putting some pressure on our systems. So here is just a video of me. I'd taken video of our coffee machine doing that, and then I just put some text over the top of that. This video got a ton of plays. It did great because it's short, which Instagram likes short content, and it tells you exactly the information that I'm trying to convey. And then in addition to that, I put some trending audio music behind it, which is just kind of a second level, third level sort of thing that you don't have to do. And that helps with engagement and likes, and Instagram showing it to more people too. Another example, so you can do a ton of videos like that. If you say, I don't want to be on camera, I'm not comfortable face to face, this is the other option that you can do. If you do any sort of like workshops or informational teaching to others, or let's say you get on the news or something like that. I just set my iPod. I was doing a little bit on the news about melatonin. The news reached out and said, hey, can you talk a little bit about melatonin? I just put my iPhone on a little stand right behind this camera and then just recorded that. And so it was me talking to a reporter, talking to somebody else. And then I just captured that and I shared that as a piece of content, and it got, tons and tons of, like, over 100, probably 75,000 views. Let's see, I'm just going to show you a couple more. Here's our t-shirt from our office that wasn't me face to face. Here's a really popular video where I simply took some video of my ibuprofen bottle at our house in the morning, and then I did a video voiceover behind that, talking about a recent patient that had come in. Their child had drank some ibuprofen. They were going to rush to the ER, but here's how we help them to avoid having to go to the ER and all of that scary stuff that goes along with that. And so those are ways that you can create content without being on camera, is just record it voice or as you talk. The other thing that you can do is when you're in the exam room, if somebody's giving you a really good question, you say, hey, I have a lot of parents that ask this sort of question, or I know that's a common thing that 40-year-olds are concerned about. Do you mind if I just quickly record this voice memo while we're talking here about it and talking through it? I won't use your side of it or anything, but I just have kind of a spiel that I like to do. Voice memo, record the spiel that you typically give about whatever it might be, and then that's some good audio that then you can just put video behind. Super easy, right from the Instagram app, and right there you have a piece of content that you can put up, and it feels very organic. It feels very personalized because you can say this, I recorded this while I was talking to a live 40-year-old human that was worried about their cholesterol, and I just wanted to share, here's what I know about cholesterol and here's what I think you should do.
Oh, that's awesome. I think that the thing that I learned from you so much is just keep it simple. We're complicated so much, and you're
Yeah.
nicer than I am about the camera thing. I just say you have to get over it.
Well,
Because the
that's for me,
algorithm,
like if I can
yeah,
push people to do it, but if you need to have some quick wins and some success
yeah,
and walk into the pool at a zero, like a zero entry pool rather than
yeah,
jumping off the diving board, then those would be my suggestions for how to do that.
baby steps.
You can also fake it too. You can ask your spouse, ask your nurse, whomever is in your office, can you throw some questions my way? I'm just going to answer those questions here, and record that and just
Yeah.
talk with them like anyone else that you would.
You're just talking over it. That's such a great way to kind of get over it. It's easy for me to say because I'm obviously a very outgoing person. So, but when you are very shy or you're not comfortable with that, I think that's such great advice of just coming up with other ways. But in DPC, you
Yeah,
are the face of the business. That's what people are
totally.
buying, that
Yep.
relationship with you. They want to see you. So if you
Hmm.
make it so that you're talking to someone just naturally like you recommended, I love that idea. That's so good. Um, this is a good question. What are some things that you've done that don't work or that you feel like people waste too much time on?
What are some things that you have that do not work or worth investing too much time on? I think marketing agencies in general don't work and aren't necessary and are so expensive. I have worked with marketing agencies over the years myself, like hiring them to do my marketing. And it's great for like 2 months. And then it just goes downhill because they are used to working with pizza parlors or,
Our hospital system.
hospital systems or something like that. And it just doesn't it doesn't come across in the same way that it does. So that's the biggest time and actually investment waster because they charge thousands of dollars per month. And then they might print some nice reports for you, but at the end of the day, it doesn't create new leads or
Right.
help you to put yourself out there in the community. Or they're making stuff like Happy Independence Day. Well, of course, everybody would say Happy Independence Day. Like I don't put up posts for like Independence Day or any of the other holidays or anything because it's just so forgettable. Like, I mean, I saw 30 people that said Happy Flag Day. Who cares? So they'll create that kind of content because it's really easy to slap a Happy Independence Day from such and such direct care and schedule that and think that they've done something helpful, and it doesn't move the needle. It doesn't get people, like, nobody's going to be like, oh, they wished me a happy Independence Day, I better join that practice.
Right.
And so I think that's a big thing. And then I think just overthinking it or over editing is the biggest way to get sucked into the perfection loop that then you never post because it wasn't perfect. And I'll tell you, back in the day, I would edit, like I would create a video and there'd be blanks and ums and ahs and everything like that. And I'd be going through frame at a time, trying to cut it so I could cut it without it looking like I cut it. Like I had to stand in the exact same place with a little marker on the ground and everything like that so that I could cut the video so you couldn't even tell that I had cut it. Nobody cares about that. Everybody is half distracted all of the time. And so the fact that you're saying something useful and it cuts from time to time or it moves around or there's an or an ah, nobody cares about that. So not spending time on over editing is the most important thing. And the other thing I'll say about that, which is always just kind of humbling and kind of a wet blanket about it, is most people, even if they're watching your videos, even if you're creating engaging videos, which I think I usually create, I've done it enough that I know which videos are going to keep people's attention and not, is even the most engaging videos, people only watch the first few seconds before they keep scrolling. And the reason for that is there's so many distractions and there's such dopamine hits from new that you just keep scrolling. And if you look at the amount of content that somebody scrolls through in a day, the average is like on your little iPhone, you scroll the length of the Statue of Liberty every day, like that much space. So keeping their attention for a long time is really hard. And so if you're spending an hour editing a 90-second video, most people are going to watch the first 10 seconds at the most, even if they think this is somebody that I really like and I love their content. Most people keep scrolling anyways. And I can tell you, I can show you my Instagram metrics sometimes for that to show that even my videos where I've had videos that have 1 million views and everything like that, and still people scroll away within 20-30 seconds max.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. And I think it's also really encouraging to hear that perfectionism is possible to overcome. I love
Yeah,
that.
it is.
started out and now you're just like hopping on and going with it. And I think that just goes to show even more, rip that Band-Aid off. The more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get with it. And you can't expect it to be perfect. And we don't either. I love this. Tom Roundtree said he needs a vacuum to pick up all the gold you're dropping. That is awesome. And it's so true. So make sure that you follow Dr. Phil over there because, oh my goodness, he's always dropping gold.
I appreciate you saying that.
Okay, next question is, what type of content do you create to generate leads? You've answered this a little bit. It sounds like you're doing a lot of examining of your metrics too, and seeing who's responding, and the algorithm, you touched on that. Is there anything else that you want to add to that?
Yeah, when it comes to actually generating leads, like you can put all that information out there. You can, and I'm very guilty of sometimes I don't focus enough on actually bringing in new leads because I expect that it's part of people's customer journey, that they're just going to see video after video after video. And eventually they'll come to the decision that they need to like take the next step themselves. But you can help them along that way. And there's a couple things. One is make sure that it's easy for them to know where you practice and what the next step is. That looks like on your Instagram, on your TikTok, on your Facebook, making it really easy to get to your website so that they can take the next step. Because as you know, everybody is so distracted in our modern world that if it takes 7 seconds for a web page to load, or it's not just completely frictionless, the experience, they're just going to get distracted by something else or go look at their text messages and they won't come back for another few weeks when they need to again. And so what you want to do is make it as frictionless as possible for them to take the next step. And so the way that I do that on my social media and my marketing, one is make it really easy to get to our website, make it really easy for them to take the next step, which might be to book a meet and greet or book an appointment or sign up, and just have it be as easy as possible so that you're not having any friction that comes between you and that person actually putting their HSA card, their credit card in, whatever it might be, for them to join. And then giving them things that help to take that next step, take that first little micro commitment that leads them to eventually say, okay, I need to learn more. I've learned enough that I need to learn more. And what that looks like is within the video itself, you can ask them to comment. If this makes sense and this is helpful, comment. If you've experienced this at your doctor, comment below what it was like. Like share with me how long the wait times are at your doctor, because I think there's a lot of patients out there that are waiting a long time and you might feel alone, and you're probably not alone. If you then can help them to take the next step, that might be okay, let me think about what else I was going to say here, because I tend to go down these trains of thought and get stuck on them. Other things that you can do would be things like local giveaways. If we can do a local giveaway or something like that, like we can give away books all day long, because you can't stock enough books in your office that if one person that you gave a book to joins, that it won't have paid for all those books. So if you can spend $10 on a parenting book or something like that, if you give out enough of them and you do a good job of following up with those people, enough are going to join that it's always going to be worth your money to keep buying boxes of parenting books to give out, or whatever the topic might be. That's a really good way to kind of take that next step to going from I'm just a passive scroller to I'm actively engaged to I'm reaching out to actually figure out if this is right for me and take that next step.
That's great. Yeah, I think I like that you mentioned ROI there also. So you're seeing that return on the investment with your book giveaway, right? Marketing, right. Another thing you're going to see your return on your investment with, and this is a little bit of a shameless plug for the both of us here. So bear with me, but when you're someone who's attending this, I'm guessing that you're probably either wanting to dive in and try it on your own, or you just really hate social media and you're thinking, can I get over that? So where we kind of come in is Freedom Healthworks, we've also noticed marketing companies are not where it's at. They do not understand DTC. You're not going to get the results, and you're going to spend a lot of money learning that lesson the hard way. We've seen it many times. So we created a system where we can help you with your interactive social media, where we're doing it for you and with you, but you're still the face of the business. This option would be for people who are interested in social media, but don't feel that that's their best and highest calling. And they're wanting to really focus on patients. They're not looking for a creative outlet, but they know that they need social. They know it's a great option, and they want that support. So we're here for you. The other option is something that you can speak on more. I would love for you to plug a little bit the classes that you offer for people who do actually want to do it themselves and learn that.
Yeah, I think that's great because it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it is important that you like know and that you're the face of the business, whether you're actually pushing the buttons or not. I would encourage most physicians to like, once you have it down and you can create those videos, get somebody else to actually like sit on Instagram and type this stuff in and move from there so that you can focus on the bigger picture things, which is certainly what I do. We have folders that I just drop videos into, and then I have like my receptionist will do it or somebody will do it so that it's not slowing me down and I'm not sitting there like trying to type in all the little things. But it is good to know how the system works regardless. And so I do different marketing classes from time to time for physicians. I did a couple early or in late winter where we went through like a 4-week course of how to get started on your social media. And I like to take credit for, sometimes you will see pediatricians or direct primary care doctors that are recording in their cars. And I didn't invent that, but I do kind of try and teach physicians to do that. So sometimes if you see that a lot, I would like to think that I at least played a tiny role in their decision to do it and normalize it. Exactly. So the next thing that I'm doing is, well, I'm speaking at a couple of upcoming things. So the DPC Summit, which is in Minneapolis in June, which I know that you will be at as well.
I'll be there.
Yes, totally. And then the Hint Summit as well, in San Diego in the fall. I'm speaking at that. And then I'm putting on a little marketing boot camp because I know that there's a lot of people that want to have like the how to do it, both from a scripting standpoint, both from a best practices standpoint, and from a here's how you actually like click and put the little tags on there, add the captions to the video, all of those sorts of things. So that is an upcoming summit that I'm doing on June 1st. Instead of doing a 4-week class in summer when a lot of people's schedules are wild, I'm doing a 1-day, and it's actually half a day where we go through all of what I typically do over a whole month as just as a boot camp that you can watch. You can, watch it later if you're busy or you can't even make it that day, or you just need like the replay to like slow it down and see, okay, where did he click and what did he do there? So that's an upcoming summit that I'm doing too and putting on for practice owners that are looking to up their marketing game or get started.
Yeah, I love that. I am constantly sending people to your page, especially when I get the rare opportunity to talk to people that are creative and looking to be, artistic or looking to challenge themselves in that manner. So we appreciate you offering to not gatekeep and to share
Yeah,
those.
totally. Well, the thing is that like we're not competitors, and it's better if everybody knows, because you want as a physician to have a voice out there, and oftentimes your voice gets lost with all of the influencers and other people on social media that are getting in your patient's ears and then making it really hard for you, or it's taking more time than for you to get your message across. So if we can be out there, then we're much more likely to have a voice, save the hassles that come in the exam room of untalking them from the wild things that they hear on the World Wide Web.
Yeah, I hate that. There's another question that this one is actually my question for you, is about the difficult conversation. So do you avoid things that are points of contention, I guess, like, of course, vaccines are going to be on there.
Right.
The other day you posted something about your toddler not needing formula. Those kinds of things. Do you take those head on? Do you try and avoid those? What's your advice for people about that?
I would say until you feel really comfortable with your voice, I would avoid those things, because you get sucked down a rabbit hole and you have a bad experience and then you never do it again. And I see that time and again where somebody tried to go out and do it and they said something that they didn't mean to say, or that they meant to say it, but they probably wouldn't say it to that audience given another opportunity, because it can be a little bit vicious out there. And so once you have a firmly established voice, then yes, people like and people relate when you are both real and you tell it like it is, rather than beating around the bush or simply saying the really easy things to say. Like, who's not going to say put sunscreen on? That's not controversial. Like, everybody's going to say put sunscreen on, of course. So it makes less of a difference in the potential patient's mind if you're just talking about why you should put sunscreen on. Duh. Everybody knows that. It's like, it's not something that anybody is going to say, no, you shouldn't wear sunscreen or something like that. But then if you can make pointed comments and if you can share your point of view about specific topics, then it will draw people to you, because you're getting off the fence and you're actually saying, this is important, this is not important. And people want to resonate with you and understand the way that you specifically talk, think, practice. And so that is what's going to draw them to you, is if you can actually be real and share those things. But it's not for the faint of heart. And you will have to not look at your comments from time to time because it will really bum you out, because people love to live in the comments and read all the comments and everything like that. So my practice is to not look at comments because it doesn't make me feel better. And I have a good, strong voice, I think, and I'm able to share that and articulate myself well. And I just don't spend time in the comments because it doesn't make anything better. And I tell people that too. Just yesterday I posted about ADHD and somebody had said, you need to tend to the comments more because there's people that are saying wild and crazy things about ADHD here. I'm like, yeah, I just don't have the bandwidth to do that. And so you can't expect me to police the comments for you. Fortunately, I have a really great audience that polices the comments on my behalf, just like commenting back and everything like that, which is good and helps, but I just don't have the bandwidth to do that. I mean, and you don't even know necessarily what's going to set people off. So I do ear piercing in my office, and I have an ear piercing course that I did actually too for physicians that like want to learn how to do ear piercing. Every time I post an ear piercing video, I know and I expect that in the comments, there's going to be comments about guns versus needles and all those sorts of things. And I just don't have the time, energy, bandwidth, or personally care to entertain the comments of guns versus needles or anything like that. But it always draws people out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is such a great point. And I think one thing that's hard, especially when you're just getting started, is you have the time to look in those comments and get stuck there and they get in your head. And
totally.
I think just going into it with the thought of, I'm going to have some boundaries with this, just like we teach our kids. You got to have some boundaries with social, what to really spend your time on is so important there. So I appreciate you explaining that. I think I'm going to take this as our last question and kind of trying to keep an eye on time here. I know a lot of people are sharing lunch with us, and those of you watching this back, our last question is, what metrics should I pay attention to and what should I track?
Good question. So much of the way that social media works, especially on the big channels like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, they're algorithm driven, and you have very little control over the algorithm in terms of what they expose more people to and how many views and likes and everything. There are so many co-founding variables that you have zero control over that honestly, I try and tell people to avoid looking at a lot of metrics because it will just bum you out. Some videos will resonate and get a lot of views. Some videos will totally sink and not get any views. And that is entirely normal. And it's less a reflection of you and more a reflection on the time of day that you're posting, what else is going on in the world, specifics of the algorithm that you have no idea why something didn't land or did land. I see that every day and I try and overanalyze those myself. Like, well, why does that one have 2,000 less views than that one? Yeah, it's totally out of my control. It's not something that I have any control over. So what I would do is I would try not to look at the metrics in general and just put out good content on a regular basis. And then ask your patients that are finding you, how did you find me? Are you on social media? Do you follow us on Instagram? Oh, yeah. I totally saw that thing that you posted the other day. You will see that over time, once you have enough content out there, the way that it'll work. And the metric that I like best is I go in to tell the parents of the 6-month-old about starting solid food and adding, making sure to do allergen, highly allergic foods like peanut and egg. And they say, yeah, we already saw that on Instagram. We already know what to do. You don't have to tell us again. You already told us. And those are really the good metrics that I find make you see the results. Is one, are people seeing it that are coming in and joining your practice? And two, is it having a material impact in their lives? And then the rest is really just vanity. And so that's kind of how I look at that. I mean, sometimes it's nice to have lots of likes and views and all of those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, this is a tool for your practice. It doesn't define you. And so I try and tell physicians to avoid giving it undue weight on your self-worth or the worth of your professional life. But it is a tool that works really well at what it does. But it's just, if you get stuck in the metrics, it makes it really hard to feel like you're making progress fast enough. The only reason that I have 80,000 followers is because I've been doing this for 4 years, and I didn't have 10,000 followers in January of this year. I didn't have 10,000 followers, and then it just exploded for reasons that are totally outside of my control. it just exploded to 80,000. Like I gained 70,000 followers in the past 6 months, just because some videos hit and then people shared them and people liked them, and that's how it grew. It wasn't anything that I did, and I don't know that I impact anyone locally more so than I did 6 months ago when I had 10,000 followers versus now when I have 80,000 followers. And so most people aren't still going to join your practice, but it's one tool that helps with growing your practice.
That's so true. I always try and tell people to focus on that interaction too. You know, if people are messaging you and you're getting comments and people are talking to you about what you're posting, and it's, you know, people who are actually your patients or who have come to a meet and greet or things, those are what you want to focus on, is making that impact.
Totally.
And how many people that you're reaching are likes. It's so easy to get sucked into that kind of toxic cycle. So I totally agree there. Apparently my dog does as well. I hear her barking in the background here. But there was one more thing I wanted to touch on there when you were talking about growth. The semi question is ads. Have you found ads are helpful for you? I think I've seen you place ads for the groups that you do, like the toddler tantrum, maybe. Okay. Is that more where you spend on ads?
I'm not doing any ads currently. The thing about ads is it's very difficult to crack the system to have a material impact without spending a lot of money, especially if you're just getting started, because it's really expensive and it's really saturated. The Facebook, Instagram, TikTok ad spaces are. And so I wouldn't use ads to grow at anyone's point, honestly, until you've got a really good repertoire of videos or content that you've created that you feel really good about, because otherwise you're going to spend a lot of money and not get a lot of results, and it can be really expensive. And a marketing agency will do it for you, and it will cost you a fortune, and it'll be outside of their fee, and then you won't really see or necessarily be able to tell the return on investment. But it's not something that I recommend for most people to do, especially when it comes to local traffic. Coca-Cola, sure, they're going to have a huge ads department and all those sorts of things. A pizza parlor might when they're having a special promotion. But by and large, I don't think that's going to convince people to join your practice, especially if you're already putting out good content that's reaching your local audience, which is who you really want to focus on. I don't think it's going to make a big splash ads wise. If I was going to do any ads, which the one ads that we do are not on Facebook or Instagram or anything like that, we do Google AdWords. And so when somebody types in Lincoln, Nebraska pediatrician, we pop up at the top, and that saves the hassle of SEO, which is a whole nother beast that people try and figure out, or they hire a SEO specialist for $1,000 a month that makes them feel like they're getting more SEO bang for their buck, when really for $5 a day, you can put yourself at the top position of Google. And that's well worth your money, because then you're coming up first when somebody searches for primary care Boise, or internal medicine doctor Omaha, something like that. You're going to pop up at the top and be the first one that they're going to click on, and it's relatively cheap. Trying to get your SEO optimized with blog posts and backlinks and all these other things is very complicated. It doesn't work very well, and it's usually not worth people's money when it comes to a small practice to try and focus on SEO. So if you're going to do ads, I would start with Google AdWords under Google My Business, and claim that top spot so that when people search, you come up first.
Okay, great advice. Yeah, I think the only thing I would add to that is that it's very, all of DPC is customizable, right? It's, we've heard over and over, if you've seen one DPC, you've seen one DPC. They're all different. Sure. And I think that ad wise, it's really dependent on where you're located too. If you're in Miami, you're running a social ad, you're going to see a lot of difference as opposed to, I'll call it my hometown, Springfield, Illinois. That's very small. So it's going to be different dependent on the area too. So thank you so much for your time today. I mean, I always learn so much from you whenever we get a chance to talk, and and whenever I get to hear you speak. So I'm very much looking forward to those conferences as well. How can people find you? Obviously Instagram.
Yes. Instagram's a good place to find me if you want to learn parenting stuff or learn about my practice. I try to do lots of stuff on the Facebook groups, like the direct primary care related Facebook groups, as a way to just kind of give back and share what works from a marketing perspective, or just email, honestly, just emailing me, and I'll just drop my email in the chat too, but that's probably the easiest way. to find me as well, is just to send me an email. I mean, I'd love to talk to any direct primary care interested person about direct primary care and help them along their road in whatever way I can with that. And so just directly contacting me is probably the best.
Sure. I think that's one thing that we really agree on, is just however you want to be in this DPC space, whether you're using either of our services that we offer or not. We are here with the sole goal to move DPC forward, and whatever we can do to help you get there, whether it's working together or not, we are more than happy to. I can also put my email in there, so that you can find me if anyone has questions. If you felt like, oh yeah, this is great, but that's not me, I'm not gonna
Totally.
be figuring these things out, reach out to us. I'm happy to talk you through there, or help you however I can.
Well, that's exactly, I mean, to your point, you know, the reason that I'm in DPC is in probably large part from the Healthcare Americana podcast, which I was listening to in 2020, 2021. And they weren't trying to always like get you to sign up and join. It was education, 95% education, 5%. Hey, we work with physicians that are trying to do this. And so, I mean, that's exactly the model of marketing that you want to do, is you want to educate, and then the people that need you will find you and they will come to you.
Right. You don't have to force it. There are people who find you. I love that. Love your plug for Healthcare Americana. Another great podcast to listen to if you're entering this DPC space. Someone asked if this will be recorded. Yes, we will send this out to you. If you've registered, you'll get the recording after this call. And as always, we love referrals and we love you sharing with your friends. So if you think of anyone else who could use help with social media or would like to learn, please share that with them as well. Thank you so much for all of you that attended live. And for those of you who are watching this back recorded, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I hope you all have a great weekend.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you again. Bye.